Welcome to the Orykl Podcast, where we ask the big question, hey universe, what's going on? I'm your host, Huenu Solsona, and today we are exploring another fascinating spiritual journey. Let's get started. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Orykl Podcast. Hey universe, what's going on? Today I'm joined by Claudia Granger, who is one of Orykl's vetted practitioners, and I'm super happy to have her here with us. I'll just quickly do an introduction, which she's given me, and I absolutely love. So I'll just read it out for you guys. Claudia Granger is an internationally recognized psychic medium and soul empath with over 40 years experience. Her work has been featured in several TV shows, including A Haunting by New Dominion Pictures, and she has won several awards for her psychic, medium, and life coaching work. This spring, the Professional Organization of Women of Excellence Recognized, acronym POWER, awarded her the Women of Empowerment 2024 award. Currently, she gives various sessions which are categorized into channeling, mediumship, healing, and mentorship and teaching. Claudia has 3 life missions: being part of the end of all suffering, helping people blossom to their true potential, and explaining how spirit works. With her unique gifts, which she has possessed since childhood, Claudia can recall many past lives and the time between lives. During her channeling sessions, she effortlessly transitions between the 3-dimensional world and the 12th dimension or density, showcasing her exceptional flexibility in working with her clientele. Claudia is passionate about dispelling fear of the spiritual and paranormal. She firmly believes that nothing is outside of God's creation, and this passion fuels her work and guides her interactions with her clients. So, Claudia, with that said, welcome and thank you for joining us on the Orykl Podcast.
Hello, and thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. So, Claudia, we are going to talk a little bit about your spiritual story, how you got to where you are today. And to start, let us maybe go into your childhood. If you could tell us a little bit about where you grew up, what your childhood was like, and maybe if you thought that you were a little different, if you found that you were a little different, if you had maybe any special experiences that you can recall as a child that were not a little bit like the norm, so to speak.
Okay, if I may, I even would like to go a little bit before my childhood. I want to start at the very beginning when I made a decision to incarnate onto this planet. So
Absolutely.
let's imagine we are at a white cafeteria where you make decisions in between lives. And you see a lot of golden figurines like soul frequency beings. And when you know somebody from spirit to spirit, you see a face and you instantly know, oh, this is this person. I have incarnated with this person in that life or that life. So when you connect, you instantly get a download who you were connected to and how you were connected. So in this in-between state, depending on where you incarnate, let's say Earth, you see a planet Earth. And then I decided, now I had certain tasks to fulfill. Some were karmic, some were free will choices. And so I was asked by the team, my guiding ones, how do you want to, where do you want to, and in which form do you want to incarnate? So I chose female, lighter skin, Germany, and certain circumstances as parental DNA, because that creates us a matrix and what we dive into, belief structures and all these sort of things. And now I want to get right into something really intense here, because I saw a golden being and she came to me, recognized me, I recognized her, and she said, oh, you're here too. And you incarnate as what? And so I told her, and she said, I'm so excited about this life. I'm going to be a scientist. I'm going to be going into the Amazon. I'm going to be kidnapped and raped. Isn't that exciting? And I said, oh my God, I hope you remember when you're down there what you signed up for. Meaning, sometimes we feel devastated by life events, but some of them we chose for experiences. And when you think about it, that's pretty dramatic. And my guiding ones always say to that, you signed up as a soul, like an actor for a theater play of life. Don't take it too personal when you're down there. We wouldn't judge an actor for playing the part of a bad person. In the theater play, we judge. Outside, we would clap him on the shoulder and probably say good performance. Now, this statement of mine is probably very controversial, but you asked me about my life, so that's how I perceive it. In the childhood, yes, I knew from day one, after waiting this long, boring 9 months in my mom's womb, that I was different because I saw things and other people did not. I mean, I have to admit, I expected everyone to be able to see beings and entities and whatnot, but they didn't. So what gave me a little bit difficulty was my multidimensional thinking, meaning when we were playing catch or, hide and seek, I sometimes zoned out. That means I tunneled with awareness because I was bored into another dimension or into another past life or into another reality. And that got me oftentimes into trouble. For example, at school, my teacher didn't want to let me go from 4th grade to high school. And my parents had to make an intelligence test with me, go to university, because I was zooming out. I was listening to the people chatting behind me. I was listening to the teacher, and I was paying attention to something else going on in the universe. But for that, I had to stare, like this, I'm not there, the lights are on, but nobody's home kind of a stare. And this teacher didn't take lightly to it. And so the intelligence test came back as in 4th grade being at a high school senior level. So she had to promote me to high school. But these are the challenges I had to face. Being different, it's definitely not very comfortable. Sometimes I wished I was just normal. Or, for example, when I at night looked to the moon, because you can channel through these heavenly bodies. They're inside and they're also outside. So there's a connection there. And I was tunneling oftentimes to the moon. The Catholic neighbors were saying, oh, your daughter is moonsick. You shouldn't let her look at the moon anymore. Lo and behold, my parents heeded them. So I was forbidden to look out at the starry sky at night. So these are these prosecution issues most people don't have to face at this time and age anymore, because these gifts are more commonly known about. But I definitely was quite different. But I survived, and here I am.
Yes. And because of that, did you find that you're close to some of these gifts? Because I do know of a lot of people that as children, they're very open, they receive a lot of messages, see a lot of things, but because society doesn't understand it and often, shuns upon it, they close off to their gifts. And later on in life, they come back because eventually that thing inside of you needs to be, let out. With you, was that the case? Did you kind of say, okay, enough of all this, let me lead a normal life? Or did you just continue?
I tried.
You tried.
I tried, but I couldn't. But I tried. That led
Yeah.
me to theology studies because I wanted to, I knew that the gifts were a connection to source or God. So I wanted to do it the right way. So I studied theology. But then I realized that my professors couldn't answer the most fundamental questions I had. And B, once I was done, I realized in what a cage I would have been put at with my seeing and thinking and sensing around people. So I decided to do continued education and worked in the end at a American consultancy company and HR Europe. So I went the worldly path. I tried to do it the society right way, but I went a different path. And then in the evenings, I did meditation groups and classes. And there were no people really you could learn much from at that time when I started. But by
What year?
coincidence, and that's something I wanted to make this theme maybe of our discussion. If God wants it and wills it, it will be so. There is no chance you can escape certain destined events in your life. For some people, they are more dramatic than others, but there are certain things which are absolutely destined you cannot circumvent. And one of the things was a meeting when I didn't close it down really, my gift, but I've forgotten how to handle it. Maybe I should put it this way.
Yeah.
And when it was meant to be, I got the book of one of my friends, and she gave me this book, Seth Speaks. This was one of the first channeled texts by Jane Roberts. Yeah, out of body channel, completely gave up her body and channeled this entity. And when I read that book, that was like, wow, he's like me. Wow, he knows what I kind of know. Wow, this is fascinating. Finally, somebody who sees it the way I perceive life or I perceive existence.
Yeah.
And the moment by that time, pardon, sorry, go ahead.
How old were you at this time when you
At that time, when I got that book, I was in theology studies. That brings me to my next point. I was like 18, 19.
Okay.
And at that time, I closed the book down and I looked at this student newspapers. And in this little student newspaper, we had a lot of greetings. And, all boys and girls wanted to know whether somebody sent some greetings. In those times, we didn't have phones and texting and all these sort of things. So we had to do it in written form. And so I was looking through the little magazine newspaper for students, and I read greetings to all Seth friends. Now, we don't have the name Seth in Germany very often. So it intrigued me because I just had closed that book down. And I called the telephone number. And Achim, the guy who answered, said, "Claudia, what took you so long? I waited by the phone for 20 minutes. And it's like, where's the camera? Where's the hidden camera? What's going on here? And he said, well, aren't you the one who always walks around the lake? Aren't you the one who does this? Aren't you the one who does that? And it's like, shock. How could this person know? And he said, if you want to know how I know you, meet me in a cafe and we can discuss. So, of course, I did.
Yeah.
I met the person in a cafe and we sat down, had a coffee. Immediately, he talked about out-of-body experiences.
So you didn't know
and
him?
Me, easy.
He wasn't a friend from
easy.
School or anything like that?
No, it was a total stranger. And the only thing he wrote was greetings to all Seth friends, meaning he set the intention of meeting people who read such material and who were there. And of course, I got triggered and responded because it was destined. So we were sitting in the cafe and he talked about out-of-body experiences. And immediately I went out of my body and found my consciousness under the ceiling looking down on us having a coffee. And I was so shocked by that I slammed back into my body and got so nauseous because when you're not entering your body and configuring it slowly and gently, you're getting your physical symptoms. So everything was spinning. So I said, I have to go. It was too much opening up at one piece, So I paid, and I don't even remember how I went onto my bicycle in Germany. In these states, you bicycle a lot, At least in my hometown there. And I came to my student apartment. I had to lay down and I had to call friends to just calm me down back to reality because this out-of-body trigger was too strong. His presence was strong. And then after about half an hour, he called me. He's like, what happened? And said, you triggered me with this out-of-body talk. And said, we have to we have to have you in our circle. So there were about 5 people. I was the 6th one, and we were trying to explore our gifts from all walks of life, about same age as I am. And that we did. I learned a lot from this gentleman, and I saw a lot of who he was, which he even didn't know about himself. But we experimented. We said, we meet tonight, let's say at 2 a.m. at a round table, like Arthur's round table in this dimension. And then we were doing the journaling and writing down whom we met, what we saw, what we talked about. And not everyone came to the same table, but we had proof, oh, you said this. Yes, I remember you said that. So we made it that our gifts were real.
You weren't physically together when you met, when you say you would meet consciously or physically?
Yes, we were meeting in between realms. Let's say we would say we meet in the 5th dimension, and we would meet there and we would create a round table and chairs like Arthur's round table. No, we were in meeting in spirit. And then we were journaling about that meeting in the morning, we would trigger ourselves to wake up, write a note, go back to sleep. So that we had validation.
Sure.
So being so different, it was very important for me to get validation that I'm not super crazy, but this is real.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and from then to today, it's been a long road. I know you do a lot of things today, and you're super intuitive, and obviously you've got a lot of experience with a lot of different things. So how did that progress from those early days till today?
Well, as I said, I studied theology, and then I gave that up. I did other education in business school and went up in HR Europe and did my evening meditation circles and gave classes. I created a school, Daskalos Internum, for burnt out managers, because I realized that this world takes a toll on people and we easily get burned out in our daily running arounds and, trying after this and trying after money and trying after relationships. So that's what I did. And then came the big transition to America. That's another one of these fantastic stories which are hard to believe.
Yeah. So how old were you when you came to the States?
I was 35.
Okay.
And
and tell us about that. What is that? Yeah.
Yeah, so in between I learned different things like Reiki to be officially something, and I did a lot of healing there. I started out with doing healing work actually, and then I learned the synergy therapy, where you go into the inner reality of the person and you work with them as their reality, to dismantle belief constructs which are not conducive or such things. And then I decided when I'm ready, the universe will bring me or take me where I ever need to be, and not do the consultancy company anymore, but do my real work. So they sent me a symbol. They sent me the lion in my mind's eye, and they showed me that I would walk or ride on my inner line. That means symbolically on my inner strengths, and give my notice.
Right.
And I did. So that means for me, I was ready. In that moment, they didn't want to let me go, so they paid me my overtime. I went on vacation. I came to the US. I met my first husband, and he asked me to marry as soon as I was back in Germany. And I said, yes, I knew it was meant to be. And they're starting the little coincidences. Of course, when you do a big transition like that, what do you do with your apartment? What do you do with your belongings? What do you do with your life? It's a big step, right? Faith. You have to have faith. And God showed me how that works. First, the lady underneath my apartment, sorry about that, she had parents who needed to get out of the same apartment complex I lived in. So they took my apartment. I didn't even have to remodel.
Right.
Then I sold everything except one piece of furniture. And here comes the fun story. All of a sudden, while I was just contemplating how to move that piece of furniture, the doorbell rings. And with the, with the voice intercom, I was asking who was at the door, and there it says Seo. That was the name, very unusual name, also in Europe. And he said, I meditated this morning, and God told me to get to this address and meet with a lady called Claudia. She would have a piece of furniture to move, and I'm here to move it.
Wow.
I mean, if you see these stories, nobody believes it because it's so unreal. So
Yeah.
I let him up, wondering again, where's the hidden camera here? And he
Yeah.
said, is that what you want to move? And I said, yes, but how is that you're here? I couldn't believe it. And he said, well, I meditate every morning, and every morning I do a task for God. And today was your turn. So he had to rent himself a trailer. He didn't have a trailer, and he moved
Wow.
it to my parents' house. And then he wanted to know my connection with Source in this life. And so we had some discussions about it, and never then to be seen again. He did his task and he moved on. There was
That is,
nothing there.
yeah, absolutely love that. Love that story, because it just reaffirms. And you, as you're going through the process, all of us, as we're going through a process, we trust, but it's so nice to get those validations from spirit, right? That, hey, this is true. It's real. You're on the right path. This is meant to happen. That's incredible. So you went to the States, and then what happened? What did you do there? I know you're still there.
Well, I went to the States, and of course, you have to go through the whole immigration process, and you do not get a working permit right away. And coming from healing, what my parents were always most concerned about, that I would end up in prison, because at that time, spiritual healing was prosecuted. For
Oh,
example, there was one doctor who worked with a spiritual healing practitioner, and
yeah.
it was not permitted because they didn't have a doctor's license. So even though they're working in a team and a spiritual healer who was using his sense and spirit, and they had super good results, they both ended up in prison. Folks who are now following a spiritual path, and it's all so normal for you guys, you have no clue what we went through in the early days, how much persecution there was for anything. Even Reiki was right at the border, and you had to be part of some spiritual, umbrella society, or doing a Heilpraktiker shine, meaning being the next best thing underneath a doctor, like a naturopath, you would say, and have years and years of study before you were able to touch somebody.
Sure. And
So
what year are
it
you
was
talking about here? Sorry, what year was this?
when I came to the US, 1999.
Okay. Sure. So a lot's changed in 25 years.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So then I wondered, coming from this prosecutionary energy, what do I do with my gift here? I wanted to contribute. I wanted to work. I wanted to be on nobody's pocket. So
Yeah.
somebody said, you're allowed to touch if you're part of a church. Well, how do I get part of a church so quickly? And they said, Universal Life Church. So I got myself ordained as a minister to be able to do my healing work. And as soon as I got my permit to work, I did. Only that at that time, Spirit had decided to let me do readings, because the healing work was, Spirit told me that I needed to give readings. So I had to switch gear. I couldn't speak English that well. I never wanted to take responsibility for somebody's life. I wanted to just make them feel better and make them feel good, and do and shift and lift as much as I could to be part of the end of all suffering. But I didn't want to take anybody's responsibility of life. But Spirit told me, yes, you would, and yes, you do. Tell them this and tell them that. That was very scary for me, I have to tell you, because the right wording in another country. And
Yeah.
so I ended up at a spiritual center in Sedona. And one of the first people who came was a man. He threw money on the table and said, "Tell me, am I going to marry again?" In that kind of tone. So I had to really gather me together and focus. And I got an inner picture about him sitting at a long table with youngsters, probably his children, and a wife on his side. And I got the message, your wife is totally faithful, so shall you be. And there's no need to marry again. If you do not want to, you are married. And he stomped out of the room, banged the door. I didn't know what happened. I totally had to trust. It was a scary experience, one of my first readings. So later I went to the store and saw her. So because I saw her face in my mind's eye, so I went to her and said, I think your husband is already done. He, I think, is standing over there. Isn't that your husband? And she said, yeah. How did you know? I said, well, I saw you guys. I don't know what happened between the two of them, but that taught me to trust, 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 trust. And it's not always easy to trust. I have to say, sometimes in my personal life and things were not always smooth, it's hard to trust, to see the bigger picture and trust in the divine plan. But my guiding ones always said the divine in you will lead you to the right things at the right time. Relax. So it's hard to take life sometimes not personal if things get rough. Totally get it.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah, absolutely. And I hear this over and over, this trust. And it's something that you also build up with experience as you trust and as the universe delivers and you see that things worked out and they were as you trusted, then it's a bit easier, right? Every time to trust yourself more and more. And that's what experience does at the end of the day. And it's in that trusting that actually you get even better at it. So, and today I know you help people with readings, like you say, channeling, you do healings, you do all sorts, and I know you really enjoy that. I know that often people might come to you expecting one thing, but you've got so many things in your toolkit that you can take whatever you have available to you to give them the best kind of reading. What kind of things do people come to you for? What's your typical client like?
sorry to say, I don't have a typical client.
I knew you were going
I
to say
have,
that. Yeah, all kinds,
but
right?
what? No, it's the spirit sends me people in phases and like themes. Sometimes there's a theme where I get a lot of mediumship readings to connect with crossed over loved ones. Or there's a theme where people have problems within their family construct. Or some people need to let go of certain patterns to make their life better. Or more advanced people want to understand and realize some impact from other lifetimes into this one, maybe prosecution issues or whatnot. And then I have a lot of those clients for a while with past life regression and integration and healing those past lives, because we are multidimensional being and we have multidimensional influences on us. So I couldn't put myself really into a box saying, this is my ideal client. The only ideal client I have is in that they are open to what spirit has to say. And oftentimes we have certain expectations, and sometimes they come from ego. I have an ego too. And sometimes we don't trust the bigger picture, but I had sometimes clients get out of the door and say, what BS? And then after 5 years, they called me and said, I have to apologize. And he said, why? Well, because I record my sessions so that people can, in retrospect, listen, because you cannot always hear everything which is said, because there's too much information and also energy downloads. And I said, everything you said came to be but I couldn't see it and I couldn't believe it at the moment. And can we have another session, please? But
Yeah.
oftentimes after years, the longest span was about 10 years. I gave a person a session, and then 10 years later, they came back and said, everything you said came true. And I found the tape, and it was just amazing. So it's sometimes that people are not really ready to hear what is said. That happens. But for the most part, the more open they are to whatever wants to come through, the better the outcome. So it is depending also a lot on the openness of the client as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And Claudia, we're just coming to the end of it. I'd love to know from you what you would love people to know about themselves and about who they are. That one thing that you would love the entire world to know if they could.
All right. Oftentimes we feel prosecuted, or we feel that universe or God source doesn't love us. And we feel that there's so much injustice in the world. And let me say, there is a bigger picture here at work. We sometimes only see it about this life, and there are many other contributors than this particular life. And the second thing is, they always, my guiding ones say, you are born a diamond. In the beginning, the diamond is in the rough. Only through abrasion does it become brilliant. Now, life has enough abrasive moments, but these are the ones who shape you to become your brilliant. And God's source experiences him, her, itself through the myriads of souls, through the myriads of circumstances to expand God's source's brilliance. So you are part of that process. And if you can believe that the world is not against you, but for you, and that this is just an experience, no matter how difficult the experience it is, you can live life from a different perspective and a better perspective, which makes it easier for you to surrender to the process that is. That would be a statement.
It's a beautiful analogy, a beautiful message. Well, Claudia, it's been such a pleasure. As we mentioned at the beginning, you are one of Orykl's practitioners. You offer sessions on channeling, mediumship, healing, and mentorship and teaching. You've been doing this for over 40 years. I know personally that you're wonderful. It's a pleasure to have you with us. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you for letting me tell the story. And again, I know some of these coincidences are unbelievable, but if you look in your own life, life can be really magical. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Claudia. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.